Happy and Healthy, a series to help you learn about available resources.
Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and you're used to seeing me on Spotlight on Government. However, today I'm here with a program called Happy and Healthy. And I have to tell you, it's a program that's designed for seniors and for adults who are growing older and for their families. However, today we're going to talk about scams, all different kinds of scams. So even though it's designed towards seniors, this is a very valuable program for you all to watch. I'm really special because I've got a guest today. In fact, I've got 3 of them who are outstanding in their field. Our guests today are Kevin Jackson, Chief Investigator, Hillsborough County Consumer Protection Agency.
Thank you, Bill.
Pat Hanna, Regional Director, Region 2, Seniors versus Crime, a special product of the Florida Attorney General's Office.
Thank you for having me.
And Special Agent Dave Couvertier, who is the Tampa Field Office of the FBI.
Glad to be here.
What a great group. You guys must have a great deal to share with us and all your vast experience on scams that seniors are going to be exposed to. Not only seniors though, right?
That's right, all consumers.
Everybody, and they can all come to you. So it doesn't just have to be seniors.
Absolutely.
So those of you right now who are watching this, and you've got younger people in your family, bring them in to watch it too, or recommend that they do.
Absolutely.
Kevin, let's start with you. Give me a real thumbnail on what your organization does.
Well, I'm the Chief Investigator for the county's Consumer Protection Office. I have 6 investigators that intake, mediate, and investigate all kinds of consumer complaints, and many of those from seniors, your audience that's tuning in today. So we take those complaints in, we do a little fact-finding, we do a little mediation. The main theory is we're trying to right a wrong. So if they've been ripped off in some way, financially exposed by some unfair, deceptive trade practice, then we try to fight to get their money back, try to correct the wrong, and more importantly than all of that, during that process, educate them so it doesn't happen to them again.
Pat, how about you? What does your office do?
We're the Seniors versus Crime Office, and we're part of the special project of the Florida Attorney General's Office. We began about 1989 as a legislative mandate. They wanted the Attorney General to come up with a plan for seniors to help seniors. And this is exactly what we did. We initially had seniors go out and speak to other seniors about the program, but we found we had a better alternative. We decided to open up shops or offices in each area of the state so that they can come in and talk to us and give us their problem. Now, we handle only civil cases, and we really are not an enforcement or a law enforcement agency. But we do try to help seniors through mediation.
But if you found that there was something that was a law enforcement question, you direct them on to the law enforcement people.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, some of our offices are located within the sheriff's office or the local police organizations, maybe a substation or something like that.
Dave, the FBI and scams, you must have a variety of scams that come across your desk.
Absolutely, Bill. And as you know, as most people would appreciate, the FBI actually investigates a myriad of different violations, and specifically federal. One of the areas that we do focus in is when individuals are defrauded, and that's one of the reasons we're here today.
It'd be interesting to me, what is a federal crime as far as relates to fraud? Are we talking about mail fraud? Is that something the FBI, or is that postal inspector? What would I think about to come to you and say, here, I have a federal crime?
Well, with the FBI, our investigative jurisdiction is very broad. We are the primary investigative agency for the Department of Justice. In that, we investigate over 400 different types of federal violations, but it includes everything, for example, internet-related crimes. It could be anything from identity theft. It could be actually schemes that are been designed to defraud individuals from either mortgage fraud, for example, healthcare fraud, issues where there's some type of federal nexus. And a lot of times where it's interstate commerce is involved or federal funding.
You know, one of the areas that I certainly want to talk about today with you and with the two of you is this ability for people to take on someone else's identity. That seems to be becoming extremely prevalent across the line.
Absolutely, and I could tell you this statistically, last year's statistics, we're waiting for this year's, or 2011 statistics come out, but in 2010, in the state of Florida, identity theft was the #1 most complained issue and reported
Really?
to the FBI, correct?
I didn't realize it had become epidemic in proportion.
Well, it's very broad. It's a very broad issue because you're kind of tying in credit card fraud and all kinds of, healthcare fraud. Anytime that someone is misusing another person's identity, whether or not they're trying to pretend to be that person, which I think is probably the worst scenario, or they're just using a fake ID of some other, of a fake person to accumulate some kind of wealth for them, in violation of the law.
I would imagine, Pat, the same thing applies in the financial dealings.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have so many of our seniors come to us with that same problem. And what happens is they get involved in one scam and their name goes out and
Absolutely.
they bandy it around to everybody else.
If they fall for this one, they're
gonna
fall for more,
something
right?
else.
Well, I tell consumers that all the time on the phone when I'm talking to them, and I said, listen, you've got targeted, now you've been educated, but if you kind of bit halfway, if you took the bait, your name now has been passed on to 10 more people with 10 different scams to try to get them again. So I tell them you got to have your guard up, because once you make that list, they used to call it the sucker list back in the old days. And if you're on those lists, you're going to get bombarded until they realize that you're no longer going to be a sucker.
There's actually boiler rooms out there of people trying to scam people, is there not? I know Norm Myers, who was working with you before he had his stroke, was telling me about people calling up with gold sales and all sorts of different things from all over the country. Now, if they call me from somewhere else, does that make it a federal crime?
Again, when we start looking at a lot of the scams that are being purported out there nowadays by the perpetrators, when we follow the money, it actually winds up going to foreign countries. We criminally organized groups that are actually operating out of the United States and in networks, and very profitable for them as well.
Speaking of the FBI, my wife got an email not too long ago that said she's being investigated by the FBI and she's got to provide the Social Security, information about her checking account and everything else. And if she doesn't, she's going to be subject to arrest. So I looked at it, and I said, well, you look at the spelling. It's like this person wrote this. Couldn't even write in proper English.
And
so
you guys can't spell, right?
Right, absolutely. And that is very consistent what he just brought up. That's one of the things that tips us, should tip individuals off right away, is they're asking for personal information or asking for money. There's only one reason that the folks are asking for that. The FBI traditionally will not or will never actually send an email or contact individuals via the internet. It's done in a little more official capacity.
Right.
A phone call, right?
A phone call, visit it, knock on the door, proper ID. And even with that, we tell people, if you're not sure, grab the individual's name, don't let them into your house on your own. Don't use the telephone number they're giving you. Go to the phone book, call information, call the local FBI office or law enforcement agency, and verify that particular person is authentic.
You touch on a very important point. In my generation, it was not unusual for somebody to come and say, hey, my car's stalled, I need to use your phone, could I come in and make a phone call? Right. And I would have said, sure. In fact, even today, maybe I shouldn't say this over the air, I might still do that, although I'm more likely to step out with my cell phone and dial it for them. But the fact is, that still happens. Should we be aware that people should not be let into our house that we do not know? I mean, has things changed enough, Kevin?
Right, and that's obvious what you say, but keep in mind that coming in your home can also mean coming in your home via email, coming in your home via U.S. mail, telephone, internet, all those types of things. So that advice is very good. And that we talk about this IRS, communication. There's something that's very well known called phishing out there, which are these fake communications, these fake websites. It doesn't have to be just from the FBI, the IRS. I mean, if you get something from the IRS, usually you pay attention and you're really concerned about what they're asking about. Same thing with your bank, department stores. There's a lot of common scams out there that come through the internet that look like official, communication from that official department or from a retailer of some kind, looking for personal information or money or something they can use to exploit you.
And these con artists, that brings up a good point. These con artists are very clever, and the only limitation to the scams, we couldn't list everything. I could bring a truck in here right now and try to load it up with every type of scam. I wouldn't have enough room. It's the limitation is the imagination of the criminal.
Yeah.
They will
And they're
tweak.
pretty imaginative. If they put all
Very
that
clever.
into working, they'd probably be millionaires without the criminal.
And
Absolutely, they're
technology
con men.
savvy.
Technology savvy, con man. They will make you feel like they are the ones that you need to trust.
And it's funny, when you speak to people, and you tell them, you have to be very careful about these people because, everyone's not your friend. Like I always tell the...
They're not.
And like I always tell
I'm like a puppy.
back in the old days, you can shake someone's hand and that's a contract.
Right.
You can't do it today. And you got to think that you must never, ever trust this person that walks up to your door, knocking on your door. You've never seen him before. Now he's trying to convince you to buy something that's questionable. And I always talk about my sister. She gets caught up in these things. She got caught up in one of those scams where you call up and say, well, so and so is in jail and I need to get him bailed out, and I'll let you talk to the correction officer. The correction officer gets on the phone. Yeah, I'm the correction officer, all right. So she promptly handed him some money. Yeah. And what the bad part about it, they came to her house. Now they know where she lived.
Right.
And then when she told them that you'll never do this to me again, when she found out it was true, that they were crooks, they told her, well, I'm going to come to your house, I'm going to rape you, and I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
See, now that's what
Intimidation.
starts. Right. Intimidation,
Yeah, that scam that Pat's talking about is called the friend in need or family in need, where you get this late night phone call. And what the key about that scam is that they've obtained personal information about your family. So when they tell you that your cousin's name and they live in Hartford, Connecticut, well, that's got to be the right person. Who else is going to know my cousin's name in Hartford, Connecticut? And he drives a Ford, Explorer, and he got in an accident. Now he's at the hospital, and and you want to help, and you want to send money, and you do, and then next thing you know, you find out your nephew, your son is perfectly fine.
And another thing that you'll see in a lot of these scams, after you become a victim, they have these recovery scams where the individual or his partners, the criminal's partners, will actually contact that victim and explain, we understand you've been scammed, we can help you to get your money back or get your assets back, and they get scammed again. So we got to be very careful, as Pat mentioned, who we trust nowadays. When we start looking at a generational situation here, individuals that were actually, actually grew up in the 30s, 40s, and 50s were raised to be very polite and very trusting. And as Pat mentioned, when you shook at somebody's hand, that was your word.
Something,
it meant something. Today, the criminals actually look forward to targeting individuals in that sector because of those issues and exploit those good qualities.
What I want to know is how common is this? We have two friends that I know that get caught up in this very thing. One of them paid $4,500 and another paid $2,000. And one of them swears it was her grandchild on the phone.
Right.
Knew about the family, everything. Sounded like him even.
Right.
It's a shock, I think, when you get those phone calls, and you're, again, it's a need, you want to help, and it's not just some stranger, you believe it's part of your family. So the instinct is, do you want to help? And I think that's why that type of scam seems to be maybe a little bit more successful than just the phony fake checks, which we'll talk about later. But that friend in need, family in need is a big issue for seniors especially.
Yeah. Well, this woman is not stupid. She is an extremely intelligent woman, but they got her at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Element of surprise.
And
Educational status.
they
has
hurried
nothing to
and
do with
did it,
Right.
and afterward they began to worry about it, so they checked further into it and found out they'd been nailed. But by that time it was too late. I think they had to send a Western Union to somebody somewhere, and it was
Right.
in Canada, they had to send it.
Yep,
Again,
exactly
it's-
right.
One of the things that they'll do is obviously the person you're talking about is academically very well versed. However, what they're tugging at these
College graduate.
college graduate, very educated. Well, although we're all humans and we all have emotions, and that's what they go after. Is they try to manipulate the person, no matter how well educated they are or aren't. They'll pull that common thread of the emotional string, and that's how they get people duped.
How common is this?
Very common, very common. We hear it all the time. We get calls in our office many times. The times that we really enjoy hearing these calls is before somebody acts, and they've heard or read something on our website, FBI.gov, for example, where we put a lot of these scams on there so people can actually read about them and how they work. And they're not sure, they'll call our office and find out. And we tell them, as soon as they start talking, we know it's a scam. Stay away from it, don't respond to it.
Yeah.
Well, like this person sent an American Express, or not American Express, but
Western Union.
Western Union.
Wire service.
All the way to Montreal.
Well,
Now, even if they'd called you, what could you have done anything about it since it was outside of the country where the money was going?
Well, I can tell you from
Besides stopping, obviously.
Oh, no, absolutely. But let's say they become victimized. We do have a repository, ic3.gov, the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But what will happen there is we do have investigative agreements with other nations. We have partnerships within law enforcement. And a lot of times what we'll do is get all that information, specifically if we're dealing with one individual that's actually out there networking or an organization over the waters, and we'll provide all that information to them and work jointly with them, or just hand it over and they'll investigate those issues. But what we have been seeing with a lot of underdeveloped countries, they're going to be coming online in the next few years. So a lot of the perpetrators are going to be being developed.
Nigeria.
Those organizations are going to expand, in great numbers, and the threat's going to be even higher for our individuals.
And more people
citizens.
are on the net.
And more people on the net, absolutely.
A lot of the people I know in their 70s and 80s aren't on the net.
Yeah.
Right. But I'll tell you this.
But some are moving that way.
Exactly. In the last 2 years, individuals, citizens, U.S. citizens that are 74 years or older, they're actually using the internet. As a matter of fact, that age group has quadrupled in the use of internet.
Really?
To stay in touch with their grandkids, they're socializing. There's senior dating sites now. People that are lonely, and there is a story that I've got where somebody was actually duped in that fashion.
Well, tell us.
Well, there was a lady in Florida who lonely. She's a caregiver, hardworking, saved. Had a nice size savings for herself to retire. Hardworking lady. She's lonely. She gets on one of these senior dating sites. She meets an individual who lives abroad, and he started cultivating her, and conditioned her and groomed her to the point that he realized what she needed in life was to be told certain things. Remember the emotional strain.
Right.
They got on that, and the next thing you know, during subsequent phone calls, he talked about this stepchild of his that he had that was really sick and he needed some money, and he just looking for loans. Well, out of the goodness of her heart and thinking that she was falling for this gentleman, and I use the term very loosely, she winds up wiring the money to the individual. Mm-hmm. And of course, she finds out shortly thereafter it was all a scam. Mm-hmm. And to add insult to injury, then he started passing her information off to other criminals, and they started doing the same thing to her.
Just like your sister.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. What makes some of these scams so prevalent, especially the friend in need, family need, because of the explosion of the internet and the social networking sites, more and more of your personal information is getting out there that's accessible by these scam artists. So if they can pick up those bits of information from their family, they utilize that in those calls that they make to you in the middle of the night, get that surprise element. And it's fairly easy for them. It doesn't cost anything to pick up the phone and make the call. They're searching the internet looking for information for Pat or Dave, and and if they have that little bit of information and tug at your emotion like Dave's talking about, I mean it works. I mean people fall for it every day.
And they collect and they actually build up profiles on individuals. Everything from the your trash, when you're throwing out magazines with your name on it and your address on there, your recycling bins that, again, you take bank statements sometimes. We know the individuals that do that. They'll take their personal documents and to do the right thing, and they'll recycle them. Individuals will come over, especially if they live in an apartment complex area.
Right.
Individuals have access to those bins, and they just start pulling that information up. Now they got a name, they got an address. They go on the internet, now they can get additional information, potentially phone numbers, date of birth, date of births, if you can imagine. It's not very hard, as Kevin is indicating. The internet was created for good, but the criminals utilize it for bad intentions. It's a tool that they will utilize. And as technology continues to develop, smartphones, tablets, more and more people are going to be using that particular format, and they're going to be putting their personal information on there. Everything from social networking sites where they put in their kids or even adults, where they live, when they're going on vacation, personal information about their family, photos of their family, so they easily identify. And you put all that information together, and now you have an entire profile or dossier on a particular individual that you can actually try to exploit.
And they don't realize where it came from. I had a lady, she was told that the government is giving away $300 to senior citizens. Now, all she had to do was just give them the bank account number, and they will deposit this money. And they assured her this is not a scam. And
It's not a scam.
And we're not a federal agency. All you have to do is give us that number. We deposit it into your account. Then she says, I said, well, why did you do that? She said, well, he already had my account number, he had my social security number and everything else. I said, well, let me ask you this. When he said that he had your social security number, did he tell you something like, could you verify your bank account number or verify your social security number? And she thought about it, she said, yeah, that's exactly what I did.
And I'll mention this, there are websites out there, databases that you can pay for, and you will get the first 5 numbers of somebody's social security number. It won't give you the last 4. But usually when you get phone numbers or you go somewhere, what do people ask you for? All right, don't give me the first 5. Give me the last 4. Now I have an entire social security number for you.
Yep,
You know, that's
day.
something I didn't know. I'm college educated, and I thought it was pretty savvy. But I thought, oh, they use the last 4 all the time at the VA and all other places. And they ask you what it is, and you blurt it right out to them.
Exactly. We become
had
conditioned
no
to do
idea.
that.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, we shouldn't be giving that particular number away that easily for anything. There are some legitimate reasons if you're applying for a loan, obviously, or some other, credit card or
Doctor's
something.
offices ask for it.
Well, see-
Everybody asks for it. You
Right.
just, these are people you trust, but you don't know who's getting those papers.
Right. And
Or how
that's-
they'll handle them.
And the 2 top places where we have a lot of identity fraud are going to be in the healthcare environment and the educational system. Because they have a lot of information, especially if you're applying for Bright Futures or different financial aid. You got everything on it, not only yours, but your parents' information, the tax returns, their social security numbers, everything is packaged up and put on there. And again, private industry or educational institutions, they've got to do a lot more to protect that information for us.
Well, it's interesting how a lot of the seniors watching this program don't think about all the information they're giving Junior to supply to all these other places.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just filled out the old FAFSA form for college funding yesterday,
Yes.
for my son's second year in college. And you fill out, personal information, U.S. tax return information, the whole 9 yards, and you put it on there. And it's a government website, and I did it last year, I'm doing it again this year, but boy, it just makes you nervous. And when I hit print, I'm like guarding it, carrying it out to my car. I was like, I can't let go of this, it has everything on there. Savings and everything.
What would scare me is that this data is going to some university or some doctor's office or wherever.
Right.
And I hadn't thought about it until we did this program today.
Absolutely.
What do they do with that paper after they input all that information into their computers? Do they shred it?
Yeah.
Do they just throw it in the trash? Can I go up behind the doctor's office and find all these forms?
Right, well, that's a good point.
yes,
because
I'm going to ask my doctor next time I go in.
Yes to all the above.
because all 4 of us here could do everything right, right. But you can have, and you've seen this in the news lately, you have a compromised situation at a third-party, bank somewhere in Seattle where it has, 4.5 million customers, and somebody in Ukraine has accessed that database. So we've done everything right. We protected our information,
Yeah.
but the third party got compromised, and that happens. That's big cases for the FBI, I know. But so, that's a scary scenario, but it happens at least once or twice a year.
Absolutely.
I know, Dave, that you had some federal websites that you wanted to direct people to, and I think we should give them here. We'll put them on the screen, and then maybe we'll do it again later on the second half of the show, so that if anybody doesn't have a pencil with them right now, they can copy it down, or if they do. So what are the federal websites, and kind of explain what they are for us?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the ones that we usually promote are looksTooGoodToBeTrue.com.
What a name.
It's a perfect name for the situation here. It's a great website. The FBI has a partnership with other agencies putting that particular website together, and the information that's contained in there. And basically what it does, it gives you information about the most recent scams. It has testimonials from victims that have shared their situations with us. And it's a great educational tool to go to learn. And that's number one defense, is just being educated and being aware of what's out there and what the potentials are, just like watching this show. The other one is the Internet Crime Complaint Center, ic3.gov. And that's a partnership, again, between the FBI and the National White Collar Crime Center. What that is a repository up in the Virginia area where we, the FBI, along with our partners, collect complaints that come in from individuals, whether it be a victim or someone, a citizen that came across what they potentially believe is a scam that they've found on the internet. Any type of scam or criminal activity that's going on involving the internet can be reported easily, and it's very simple process, to the ic3.gov website. That information is collected, analyzed, and basically a small case or a big case, depending how prolific the situation is put together, and then that information and all that evidence is actually shot off to either local, state, or federal agencies, or our partners abroad in other countries if we identify that there's an organization operating in their country. And now they can actually investigate, and it will meet that prosecutor threshold in many cases for follow-up prosecution.
You say IC3. Is that the letter I, the letter C, and 3?
And the number 3. The number 3.
Number 3. So you got IC3.gov.
Exactly.
And that site can be used to report things.
Absolutely. You get all these FBI emails, or they've used the FBI director's name on an official, or supposedly an official FBI email asking for personal information. Or you might receive an email saying that you've been ordered to appear before jury duty, and you violated that, and now you have to provide this information or money to avoid any legal action against you. That's not the way it works. So those are the type of things that we would like the public to copy, put into the appropriate boxes that are there, and just fill in the rest of it. And again, very intuitive, very easy to fill out, and that information gets collected.
Where do I report it? It's a great thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at halfway point in the program. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back with senior scams. And actually, we're back with scams because a lot of people besides seniors get trapped in them. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
Patty, let me be honest with you. Won't filing for Social Security benefits online be confusing?
George, it's simple and easy, and you can do it in your pajamas from the comfort of your own home.
Oh, my.
You've navigated through asteroid belts, right?
Oh, sure, plenty of times.
Well, compared to that, navigating SocialSecurity.gov is a snap.
Really?
It's so easy. Even Kirk could do it.
Welcome back. I'm Bill Hodges. Normally you see me on Spotlight on Government, but today we're here with a show called Happy and Healthy. It's a program designed for senior adults and their families. However, today's show has a lot of interest to everyone because we're talking about scams, especially those that will be put upon the seniors. But believe me, they're not the only people these are aimed at. So if you have somebody else in the family younger, bring them in and have them watch the program. I have 3 great guests with me today. Kevin Jackson, Chief Investigator, Hillsborough County Consumer Protection Agency. Pat Hanna, Regional Director, Region 2, Seniors versus Crime, a special project of the Florida Attorney General's. And Special Agent Dade Couvertier, Tampa's field office of the FBI. What a great group of guys here.
Thanks, Bill.
We had just finished talking with you in the first half, Dave, about some of the things that you would suggest people go to on the net to either find out about scams or to go there and report things they think are scams. And Dave, you've got some things there with the Attorney General's project that they ought to know also, correct?
Yes, if you need to report a scam or you need information about our organization, just simply go to seniorsversuscrime.com, or you can go to the Attorney General's office and there's a link to our organization.
Seniorversuscrimes.com. Is that senior or seniors?
No, seniorsvscrime.com.
And they will find there either an ability to report something.
Absolutely.
Or will they find also information on things that are going on?
Information on the whole program. In addition to that, they can even volunteer. And we're always looking for volunteers.
Because yours is a volunteer organization.
Absolutely.
Especially people with what kind of background? Financial?
Any background. We have people who we've had, people who are retired lawyers, judges, bankers, bus drivers, people who've been selling cars, you know, anything that would help us get an insight into how these scams are run.
Kevin Jackson, I know you've got some websites.
We do, yeah. The HillsboroughCounty.org is the county's main website. You can just go to Consumer Protection, and on our site we have, must be 12 or 13 categories of subject matters, usually dealing with consumers versus businesses. And all those have drop downs with all kinds of information on there. And just to add to some of the sites that Dave was talking about in the first half about the federal websites, there's a good one called fraud.org that's out there. Certainly the Federal Trade Commission, which is ftc.gov. And then one particular topic that we talked about before the show even started was that fake checks scam. And there's a website called fakechecks.org, which is a partnership with the Postal Service, Postal Inspection Service. And what's interesting about that is I was involved a little bit on the implementation of that website, and that thing was paid for by restitution and monies garnered from defendants that they had charged and put in jail, and they seized some money and they took all that money and built that website. And it's quite handy. It's got film on there and how the fake check scams really work.
I think you would all agree, though, that if I was looking for one of these sites, I'd want to take it off of the screen here and write it down, rather than go and say in Google and say, find me a fraud site.
Absolutely, and the ones that we're recommending are the ones that you should actually write down and just have that master list. I call it a survival list, defense list, for personal security and awareness.
And if they want to call our office or call any of our offices, if they feel more comfortable us just sending them the link, I mean, that's real easy if they have an email address. We send links all the time to consumers.
What happens if maybe I have a group of seniors, a church group or something like this, and I'd like to have somebody come out and talk to my group? Are any of you available to do that, or can you provide people to do that?
Absolutely.
I think all of us do that, Bill.
Yes, we do that often.
So that'd be kind of neat.
Absolutely. I mean, the FBI, along with the other agencies here, we have a very strong outreach program, and we try to get the word out on these type of crimes as well as other issues that the public needs to know about. The criminals hate when we're out there and doing our jobs and trying to educate, because it makes their attempts even harder. But we're hoping that eventually we can make a big impact in this area.
And in the future, I'm going to call on both of these guys to come out and talk to our people.
Absolutely.
Well, there's resources out there, and the idea is we just got to find them.
Yeah, it's really not that hard. If they just spend a little bit of time just asking a couple of questions. If they don't have a computer, they can go down to the senior center, which those folks will help them get online and check. But if they still feel comfortable calling the telephone number, certainly all of our offices have phones, and they ring, and we can provide them information over the phone, mail it to them. I've got pamphlets. I used to bring them to your show. And there's a lot of education out there.
You got some great pamphlets.
From all different kinds of agencies, not just our own. And I know my investigators are tired of me saying this, but my goal is to put myself out of work. So if I can prevent all those scams out there, I won't have a job, and I'm fine with that. So.
All right. I asked my Facebook friends, and I've got them all over the world. I said, if you were going to sit here and talk with these gentlemen, what would you ask? And one of the questions they said, how can I be proactive? Do I have to wait till something happens to me, or what can I do? What are the steps for me to become proactive so that I don't fall into one of these pitfalls? We kind of skirted around that, but is there any kind of list of things that they should be doing on a daily basis?
There's a long list, and I can tell you this, that it starts off with education, learning what's out there, learning about the scams, the latest scams. We put that, again, on FBI.gov, for example, and the other sites that I mentioned. On a personal basis, what you want to do is protect that personal information. And I'm talking about everything from your name, your address, your date of birth, your Social Security number, your Medicare, for those that have Medicare numbers, or your private health insurance numbers. Protect those. Don't give those out upon request of somebody promising you a free gift or telling you you won't have to pay for a certain medical piece of medical equipment. A lot of times you may not get that piece of equipment, or if you do, it's going to be substandard, or they may use that number to commit other crimes as well. But trying to protect your information is key. You got to be careful where you put it. If you start putting that information along with, for example, your banking information, your checking account number, your routing number, those type of things, that's what they're looking for. Also, from the internet perspective, nowadays just about everybody has internet or access. The way I look at it is once you install the internet service into your house, you actually just punch the hole into your wall and you put in a screen door, and that's it. It's up to each individual now to strengthen that door by making sure that they have the appropriate firewall, for example, antivirus programs, that they don't, whenever they get emails, that, again, as Kevin mentioned a little earlier, when they're phishing, a lot of these guys will send these, take control of several computers that may be theirs or not, and they'll send these mass emails out to spam and saying something they're from a legitimate bank or an organization and they need some personal information. And sometimes, many times, folks will actually reply. Well, first of all, they'll open up the email, they'll click on a link, and usually that's not the same or official link.
Big no-no.
Big no-no. And then
People
sometimes
don't understand that though.
Right.
It looks like an official link, but I can make a hyperlink to anything, and they don't understand what that hyperlink. They don't understand the term hyperlink.
Right, right.
And so if you're going to be in a computer situation, you need to find out what some of these terms are.
Right.
They're not just psychobabble, and they're not just computerese. They're words you need to know, correct?
Absolutely, and those links are embedded inside the body of the email most of the time. You click on it and it'll do one or two things. They'll redirect you to a website that the bad guy has already established. It's not the legitimate website, like for example, FBI's website or the other agencies here or any other agency. It's their website, and any information you provide them, they'll collect that now and utilize it to victimize you. The other thing is, many times, you click on those particular links and they unleash malware, malicious software that'll take control of your computer for various reasons, or they'll install programs like a keylogger.
Sure.
So if you're doing online banking, for example, and putting in your passwords, they get that as well.
Captures it. Yeah.
Pat, how about some of the things that people can be proactive on the things that you're dealing with?
You really have to be simply aware. If it's too good to be true, it's not good at all.
Sounds like a website.
It's like someone tells you, we talked about it earlier, someone call you up and tell you, you won $10 million. It's first red flag. Tells you that you won on a lottery. Now, I'll tell you a story again about the guy that I talked to with the $10 million. He got a call from this lady in Jamaica. First clue. Why is she calling me from Jamaica?
Beautiful accent.
Now, she said, well, I'm a lawyer in Jamaica, and I'm also licensed to practice in the state of Florida, and you've just won $10 million, and all you have to do is send the money for the taxes and everything else. It's another red flag. If you won this $10 million, why do you have to pay up money up front? So he gave her $125,000. $125,000, and was going to give her another $20,000.
Big loss.
Until I stopped him. But think of this though. He got a call from a lady on the telephone he's never met, telling him he's won $10 million for a lottery which he's never entered.
Never bought a ticket.
And none of these things kicked in for him. So that is what you have to be. Just be aware that these things, if you see something like this and it sounds too good to be true, it's not true.
And you don't have to be a senior to have this happen to you.
Right.
Absolutely
right.
not. And that's a big thing with greed, and the bad guys know this, the criminals know this. We kind of lose all logic when they can tug at our emotions or they present money and greed takes over. And unfortunately, I've had individuals that will call me telling me, I just received this check, or I'm supposed to be doing the following and send this information. I'm supposed to get a big inheritance. And again, they never knew this inheritance even existed, or that relative even had that much money. But what will happen is, I'll tell them it's a scam. I'm actually authenticating it is a scam. And then that person will sit there and go, but what if it's not?
That's the thing about it.
my chance.
What if it's not?
Let's talk from your standpoint.
Yeah.
What can people do?
Yeah, Bill, we've been talking about really the horrific things that can happen with all kinds of money and scams like that. But my agency works a lot of things that are much smaller than that, or just home improvement. With consumers just looking for a business to replace their roof, replace their windows. And I think it's important that we want to get across to consumers that they need to check the business out. Ask your friends and family for references. Don't just pull a number out of the flyer or the yellow pages. Nothing against those publications, but you would be more trusting if you talk to your neighbor or your family or your friends. And then get the estimates. Compare the apples to apples. Look at the contracts, make sure it's in writing. And again, with home improvement, most of those jobs that you're looking to have done require licensing. So you want to verify that the contractor is licensed. You can do that with the county. You can do that with the state. We can help you do that if they call my office. So if you do some, you know, just what you call background shopping, check on consumer complaints. They can call me. It's public record. I can tell them if ABC Windows has any complaints. They can do that with the Pinellas County Consumer Protection Office. They can do that with the Better Business Bureau, the state's Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. There are so many sites out there that consumers can spend maybe 15 minutes, do a little homework, and they're going to really lessen their chances of getting ripped off by you know, home improvement contractor of some kind, because we have a ton of complaints on
So
those.
they can be proactive.
Proactive, do
Don't
some
wait
homework.
until it happens.
No,
Do the things you've just said.
Yeah, don't just call the number that came in a flyer that offered some low-cost, you know, roof replacement. Don't respond to somebody that comes down from South Carolina knocking on your door and saying, we're in your area and I want to do your driveway. I mean, do your homework. It's not an opportunity to get ripped off. I mean, you want to spend some time and some homework to do what's necessary to get the best job for the best price by the most qualified person.
And you know, you have to realize, if a guy knocks on your door and tells you that you have to have work done, you got to remember, you never thought you needed this work done until he told you so.
Right.
And you never saw him before until he knocked on the door.
And right along the lines, these criminals will actually wait for natural disasters occur, hurricanes, tornadoes, that kind of thing, and they will come out of the woodwork and do exactly what Kevin just mentioned. They'll knock on your door. They'll tell you, hey, I'm here to help you out. And those, again, the emotions are up with the potential homeowner. And what will happen is they know this. And one of the things they'll ask you for is money up front. So again, you got to be very careful. You know, try not to give any money up front. You know, try to pay when the work is done, because your house is not going anywhere. They can find you. They can take off with your money, whether it be half of it or a balance or whatever. That's all they're trying to do. Try to hit 100 people for $500 or $1,000 or $5,000, and they can go back and disappear again. So it's, you got to stay on top of it. You got to stay educated, and you got to defend yourself, and then take care of your personal safety all the way around.
Right. And with businesses, check out their history. How long have they been around? You know, call me and let me find out if there's any other complaints. One complaint, depending on how they handle it, may not be a big red flag.
Right.
12 of them, when they didn't respond to them, might be a big red
Can't
flag.
please everybody.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
My sister again, normally she calls me now.
We got to talk to your sister, don't we?
Tell her to call us.
She calls me now before she does anything. But,
Well, that's proactive.
she had someone came in off the street and put a blacktop on her driveway, and it looked nice, beautiful. She loved it. I think about 2 days later.
Until it rained, right?
That thing, it rained, and it was halfway down the block. But she's learned a lesson. She calls me now.
Right, right. Good for her.
You
That's
know,
part of it.
something that
Be proactive.
that I didn't think about. There's an outfit that advertises that they'll take your computer in and check it out for free. I don't know who they are.
Right.
Never dealt with them.
Same situation.
That's right.
But you hand them your computer, it's got all your bank records, you got all your credit cards and all that stuff on there. And certainly they're smart enough to break most of these codes.
Absolutely.
And would you hand him your checkbook to look at? Probably not.
Absolutely. And this,
You should know who that person is that you're dealing with your computers especially.
call Kevin. He'll check them out for you.
Yeah, see if there's any
right.
complaints of it.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, the computer repair thing, I think that's one of those where you want to investigate a company. If you have some problems, that go to a place that's been well established. There are no complaints. They've been around in the same location for a number of years. It's not as if all the new places aren't trying to do what's legitimate, but again, it's a trust factor. And if your family or friends or neighbors have gone to that computer place and had something repaired for any business and had no bad experiences, then maybe that's a place you might want to gravitate to, because there's a history there.
Proven record. That's right.
Now, just because some of the people may have turned in late, Kevin, in a couple of sentences, what should people come to you for?
In Hillsborough County, whether or not the business is here or the consumer is here, any type of consumer complaint where it was involved a business transaction. So it's really not you and your neighbor transaction, it'd be you and a retail location or a contractor. If you run into a complaint, you can't get it resolved, file the complaint with us. We'll look at it, we'll do some fact finding, we'll contact the business on the consumer's behalf, enter into a dialogue with them, try to mediate it, fix it, whatever the scenario is. If it doesn't belong with us after we review it, we'll get it to the right place and we'll educate the consumer along the way.
Pat, how about your group?
Well, it doesn't have to be a scam. It can be a situation where a businessman does some work for you. You don't think he did a good job, or you don't think you paid too much or something like that, they can come to us and see if we can at least mediate it. At least we can have a little meeting of the minds here. We can have this guy come forward and say, well, okay, I know I'm entitled to $3,000, but here's what I'll do. You come to me in good faith, we'll take off maybe $1,000 or so. We can do that. In addition to that, we can also do the scams, and if there's something that's criminal, we turn it over to the FBI or other law enforcement agency, and in some cases, we turn it over to Kevin for, the agencies that have more clout.
You may even reassure the consumer that actually they got a good deal. Is that correct?
Absolutely. A lot of times they come in and they think, buyer's remorse. So they come in and they say, this is no good. This guy's, I think he's overcharging me. I think he's a crook. And when you find out, guy said, well, no, here's what I did, and it's everything was legitimate.
From a consumer standpoint, we all know that if somebody's running booze in the back or drugs, we need to come and let you know. But from a consumer standpoint, what are the things that people should come to you for?
Well, the FBI, again, investigates a myriad of different federal violations, but when we're talking about the topics today, healthcare fraud, for example, it's a huge burden on the taxpayers at the end of the day. The last estimates we've seen that over 10 cents of every dollar that goes to healthcare goes to fraud. It's been stolen. Criminals have taken it. And when you look at that, that's billions of dollars that are going away that actually need to be going to those that actually deserve those services. So if they know or they're aware of any type of fraud scam that's going on, either that they know who's committing it or they become potentially a victim of it, contact our office. We'll give them the proper guidance as to what procedures they need to follow. We do tell everyone you should contact local authorities initially, contact your state attorney's office, for example, your advocacy groups, and then the FBI, and then IC3 if it's on the internet. They can actually cover all bases, and we can attack the criminals from different angles.
That would be the best way to do? Go to IC3 first?
Yes, if it's any internet-related crime should go to IC3 because the FBI is at the end of that particular website.
Otherwise, they'd call the number that's on the screen for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Kevin, what are the most popular scams going around right now that you're finding?
Well, the ones that involve the most amount of money for consumers in Hillsborough County for us is generally what I consider the home improvement scams. And it may not be a theft or a crime, but it's, the failure to finish the job. It's unlicensed activity. It's failure to live up to the warranty. If you pay good money for an air conditioning system and you get a 10-year warranty and in 3 years it breaks down, you expect that company to come back and fix it. Well, if they don't, you're going to be coming to me, where I'm going to try to look for that contractor and bring him in and try to get that issue resolved. So for us, what we can provide the most information for consumers is really the home improvement contracting situation. We get a lot of those complaints, and they probably affect consumers more often than not.
One of the things I've seen, especially in home improvements, is that we didn't have a meeting of minds.
Communication breakdown?
That I'm selling you one thing, but you're expecting a different thing.
Yep. And oftentimes when we get involved in any Pat's group to a certain extent, what we're trying to do is patch up the communication that just had terminated. It's bad. They've bad blood between them. They need somebody in the middle to try to, kind of figure it out. They trust, both of them side oftentimes will trust us to try to get to the bottom of it. But, oftentimes, the business will take advantage of the consumer situation, knowing that maybe they won't complain. They've got their money.
Well, we want to get it done cheap. I need to get it done cheap.
Right. Well, you want to get it done at all. I mean, so many cases they pay the money, they don't even get it done. And in those cases, we do criminal cases as well. We file them direct with the state attorney's office, do a number of mortgage fraud, and we do unlicensed contracting, grand theft. We do credit repair cases. So we do some criminal work as well as the mediation and then education. What
happens if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I need to have this built? And the contractor looks at me and says, well, you really don't want a building permit for this, do you?
Red flag, yeah, absolutely. Red flag. If they're asking you, hey, I can save you some money if you go apply for your own permit, absolute red flag, because if you do that, then whatever goes wrong on that construction project, it's going to fall back on you. Because
a lot of them talk you out of even getting one of those.
Because you're the contractor, Now, if they do that, if they just say, oh, well, we don't need a permit, and you don't go pull one and they don't, it usually means they're not licensed.
Well, who's responsible here if they say, If they come to me and say, hey guys, you don't really care if we get a building permit to put this little shed up, do you?
Well, in that case,
And if I say no, and they put the shed up, now who's responsible for that shed?
the business is responsible in that setting. The only way that you would find yourself in trouble is if you went down to the building department and pulled the permit in your name. But if they just came to you and said, oh, we really don't need a permit, well, you're not to know that. The consumer is not going to know. And the reason they don't pull it 9 times out of 10 is because they're not licensed to do the work. Therefore, you can't get a permit. So they ask you to do it. If they ask you to do it, that's a red flag. You know, you got to back away.
Pat, how about some of the things that you have there?
I think the biggest thing lately has been the air conditioning contractors that come in and they put in the air conditioning, and then a year later, still supposedly on a contract, they come in and try to sell you another air conditioning. $3,000 unit, $5,000 unit, and 1 year later they want to put you in another $3,000 or $5,000 unit. And in auto sales, mostly women, they would the woman would come to an agency, one of these auto agencies. They come in, and you know these things you get in the mail that you come in and you got the key, or you scratch off and you win a car, and they come in, you scratch it off, and you said, oh, maybe I want a car. You go in there and they try to sell you something. They sell you a car that you don't need. And sometimes they'll put you in a lease situation when you think you're buying a car. So those are the things that happens a lot with us.
Dave?
Yes, one of the things that we've been seeing a lot of the last couple of years is rental scams, where in Florida we have a lot of individuals with summer homes and other properties, and when they leave, or individuals with second homes that they use for rental investments, individuals from overseas will contact them, or even in the United States will contact them and indicate, I would like to rent your apartment or your beach house or whatever the case might be.
We have a lot of that in Florida.
Absolutely. And let's say you're charging $2,000 for a month or for whatever it is. They'll send you a check for $5,000 in additional to the amount needed, and what will happen is they'll ask you, I'm going to send you $5,000. Just send me, the return, the balance back to me, and I just want to make sure I cover some other expenses as well. Well, people are really happy to get their house rented or their apartment, and they'll cash that check. They'll see when they go online, if they're doing online banking, that it's cleared supposedly and has been credited to their account. So they assume quickly that now that money is good. However, the individual will tell them, I need that money back within the next 5 days, okay, because I need to take care of something else with that. Well, it takes the bank 10 to 15 days to finally process that particular transaction or that instrument. And what typically happens in those scams, the bank will come back and send you a letter or notify you that that was a counterfeit check. And then you get left holding the bag there to work that out with the bank and figure it out. And the other person already has your legitimate check, which they've cashed, and left with the extra, the extra $3,000, for example.
So you should wait until the bank clears
Absolutely.
this kind of check, and you have something from the bank telling you?
Right. Once you verify with the bank,
cleared?
yeah, give it about 15 days and then double check with the bank to make sure that was a good check. But what I'll tell you, 99% of the time, the individual that's actually perpetrating that particular scam will tell you, I need the check back, I need my money back in 3 to 5 days, real quick, because they know what's going to happen eventually here.
Sure.
So they're on a timeline. The other thing that we see, and it works the other way as well, not necessarily that you have the rental, but you're going to rent a place. And what will happen is you'll go onto a particular website, you'll find a place that you want to rent. It may be overseas, it may be another state for vacation, take your family, whatever. And what will wind up happening is you are contacting an individual who actually stole that advertisement from a legitimate owner.
Oh my goodness!
And actually copy that. And now and change the number. Everything else is the same house and everything else. And now you're conducting a transaction with a criminal, a fraudster. And then you send, in good faith, sending the money, $2,000 or whatever it may be. And next thing you know, you show up, knocking on the door, trying to get in, and there are no keys, there's nobody there, and the original owner is telling you, I don't know who you are.
How does one protect themselves against that? I can understand sitting and waiting 15 days for a check to cash. But how, if I'm trying to rent a place in Tucson, Arizona, and I go to the website and all this, and I work it through, what are the flags that I should look for? How do I, even if I call the phone number, it could be a Skype number, it could be any one of a number of things.
Absolutely.
How do I protect myself in that instance?
Well, I can tell you that these criminals are very clever. And as I mentioned earlier, their imagination is the only limitation to these scams, so it's endless. They will tweak it. You can do, as Kevin indicated earlier, you can do everything right, protecting your identity, protecting your investments, protecting all your information. But it's just a threat-based matter, and you just got to do your due diligence and be very careful, and again, try to reach out to other people that maybe have already rented at a particular location. Be very leery of trying new areas, but be very careful, and then try to check them out if you can with the local.
Better Business Bureau or rental agencies or
Well,
whatever?
I think one of the things you can do also is this person, if they own a house, it's got to be in matter of public records, and you go into that and try to find out if this person actually
that'd be a
owns
good
house,
idea.
you know?
Do that. With those fake checks that Dave was talking about too, one of the things you can do something a little bit quicker, potentially, depending on the issuing bank, you can take that check right to the bank that's located on there, and they'll be able to tell you pretty much instantly whether the check's any good or not. So instead of depositing it and then waiting for that sort of phony balance to increase in your bank account thinking it cleared when it really didn't clear, they just credit it to your account. You can take it to the actual, if it says Chase on it or Bank of America, just take it to that branch and say, I just got this in the mail, I want to make sure the check's good, and they'll tell you right away.
Of course, it could be Bank of Bahamas or wherever too.
You got to be careful again. Buyer beware. He brings up a great point, and again, due diligence. You've got to be proactive. You've got to take steps. You can't take things at face value anymore. You cannot. You can't afford to.
Can't wait.
Those checks look really good. I got a bunch of them in my office, and we use them for props and things when we do education outreach, and they're really good cashier's checks.
And I'll tell you, another scheme that we've been seeing over the years here has been the rolling labs. Basically a motorhome that's been retrofitted to put in some medical equipment, and these folks will show up at the malls. They'll show up at senior citizen communities, libraries, wherever they think that population is going to be, and they'll offer something to the effect of free lab work within 15 minutes. You're going to have everything figured out, and we're going to give you a report back. All we need is your Medicare number or your private insurance number. And a lot of times, not every single one is a criminal doing this, but you have to be careful, because many times what they'll do is they'll either run no test and give you a phony report back. Now they've got your Medicare number that they can use for other scams down the road and bilk money out of the system, or your private insurance company as well. Or they're running tests that are unnecessary. So again, that's coming out of that funding that's supposed to be there to take care of you.
Wow.
And one thing that a lot of people don't realize, your Medicare number is your Social Security number.
Right.
Gentlemen, it looks like we could go on and on and on. There's just so much. Every time you guys, any one of the three of you open your mouth, you're giving me one more idea and one more thought, and I'm a little shivery here with some of the ideas and thoughts you've given me, but it also gives me some hope, because there are some proactive ways. We've ran out of time this time, but I wonder, would you all come back again?
Sure,
Absolutely.
I think it'd be wonderful to have you back. This is Happy and Healthy, a senior project. This has been a show on scams, but as you can see, it's not only seniors that'll be scammed, it's everyone. So have everybody watch this program. I'm Bill Hodges. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. To each of my guests, I thank you so much for being with us. Kevin,
Thank you for having me.
Pat, Dave,
Thank you.
just wonderful that you're here, and I do want you to come back.